So my oh my has only existed for like 8 hours, and yet we've created, just by being in existence, a free agent signing. I said we'd react to moves, and baby, we're going to react to some moves. The Mariners sign Tommy La Stella, designate Justice Sheffield for assignment. I'll talk about Sheffield in a little bit. Look, Tommy La Stella has not been a particularly effective player over the last couple of years. He's also dealt with injuries, but you're looking at a guy who last year just basically wasn't an effective offensive player. Struggled to make hard contact. One thing he does is that he walks and he doesn't strike out. And I'll say this, like Listella, if you get the 2016 to 2020 form, where this was a guy who hit 282, 358, 435, like that'd be wonderful to have. You don't need Tommy Listella to be that in order for him to be effective. I go back to last year, which was an awful lot of fun, but the Mariners bench was not exactly the most Stella thing that you would have seen. You can't be shocked that I have a pun in my second video. I'm surprised that there wasn't a pun in the first one, to be completely honest with you. There were not a whole heck of a lot of guys that you feared. And no, I'm not saying Listella is a guy that is necessarily someone that will be a player that you think about as a manager, like, we better be ready for this guy if he comes up in the late innings. But he's competent. He's shown that he can be competent. That's something that you really just kind of need on this roster right now because there just aren't a whole lot of bench bats that I think you can trust at this point. He can also play third base, he can play second base, he can play first base. He basically becomes a combination of what you were kind of hoping Jake Lamb could have been, without the ability to play in the outfield. Although I think Listella probably could handle the corner outfield if you absolutely needed him there. But the fact that he can play third base, second base, first base, that is a valuable thing in an organization that does not have that, especially with Abraham Toro no longer part of the organization for better or for worse. Look, you need that guy. You do need that guy who can be effective in a quarter infield role or play at second base. I would imagine he's going to get a ton of time at second base, to be completely honest with you, with Dylan Moore and Colton Wong likely to be. But that is another insurance piece, and it's just like a late inning option to use for those types of situations that come up. I think you can do a lot worse than this. It's not exciting, but you know what? I just really wanted to do a transaction video. And look, it took like 6 years between Nori Aoki and AJ Pollock to sign. We got something. We got something that's actually added to the 40-man roster. Just to Sheffield. So I was surprised that Sheffield wasn't designated for assignment when they signed AJ Pollock, to be honest with you. But this is kind of sad for me because I do think Justice Sheffield showed some real glimmers of that chance to be that mid rotation starter. And it's worth pointing out that these are now both arms that were acquired in the James Paxton trade have been moved. Eric Swanson moving in the Teoscar Hernandez deal, and now Justice Sheffield likely, I think, will be claimed by somebody just because as a left-handed guy who can work multiple innings, even maybe be a starter someday. There is some value in that, but it is kind of disappointing to see Sheffield leaving the organization. I still think he could be an effective multi-inning reliever for somebody. Maybe even still could be Seattle if nobody claims the guy, but it is a little disappointing because this is a guy who looked like he was going to be much more than a mid-rotation starter at one point in his career. I mean, he was a legitimate top 50 prospect and people who write about that stuff. And oh, by the way, I happen to write about that stuff. But Tommy LaStella, joining the Mariners, you can let me know what you think in the comments. I think that's what you're supposed to do in these videos, right? Is you like tell people, tell me what you think in the comments and like and subscribe. But please do like and subscribe. I have to tell you, I've been borderline overwhelmed with how many subscribers we've already joined. It's really cool. I think we need about 8 billion more before we can actually make money on YouTube. But hey, it's a really good start. But yeah, Tommy LaStella, what you think? I think it's okay.